Mick Mulvaney calls it a tremendous honor now to be able to work with the president as his acting chief of staff. But 2 years ago, he sounded quite different discussing Donald Trump, calling him a terrible human being. In a matter of days, he'll be Donald Trump's right-hand man. But in the days before the president was elected, it appeared Mick Mulvaney could barely stand him.
Yes, I'm supporting Donald Trump. I'm doing so as enthusiastically as I can, given the fact I think he's a terrible human being. But the choice on the other side is just as bad.
Those comments from a South Carolina debate in 2016 now resurfacing, first reported by the Daily Beast after the infamous Access Hollywood story broke. Quote, "What he said in the audio tape is disgusting and indefensible," Mulvaney wrote around that time in a now deleted Facebook post. He added, "My guess is that he has probably said even worse, calling Donald Trump not a very good person." Trump allies brushing it off.
I think he's going to jump into this job enthusiastically. He's actually a perfect fit in many ways.
A Mulvaney spokesperson calls the comments old news, pointing out he hadn't met the president at the time. Now, quote, his support for President Trump has never wavered while serving within the administration. He both likes and respects the president, and he likes working for him. Mulvaney, a former congressman, will stay on as director of the Office of Management and Budget, even as he takes on the acting chief of staff role in the West Wing, capping weeks of speculation about who would replace John Kelly. With that opening filled, for now, another administration job's up for grabs, Interior Secretary. Ryan Zinke is stepping down after 2 years at the agency and 17 separate investigations into his conduct. President Trump asked about that last month.
Is he in jeopardy? I think he's doing an excellent job, but we will take a look at that in a very strong, and we'll probably have an idea about that in about a week.
A House Democratic source says Zinke was facing the prospect of aggressive oversight from Democrats once they take over the House next year. Hours before Secretary Zinke's appearance at a White House holiday reception, President Trump announced he will leave at the end of the year. His legacy at the Interior Department as much defined by those ethics questions as by the agency's repeated rollbacks of Obama-era environmental protections.
There was a lot of breaking news over the weekend. There was a federal judge in Texas who declared Obamacare unconstitutional. A lot of people who have it wondering what's going to happen to them. So what's the latest?
Well, the short answer is for those folks, Hoda, nothing happens to them for now. The law remains in place since it is expected to be appealed to higher courts. The expectation is this will go all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, you may be thinking, hang on a second, didn't the Supreme Court already rule on Obamacare? Yes, and it upheld the law twice. But there's a new legal argument being made now after Congress changed a part of the health care law last year. Now, right now, some Republicans, though, think that this case doesn't have legs to stand on, predicting that that Texas ruling will be overturned. It's a ruling that President Trump celebrated over the weekend and that former President Obama reminded folks about, saying, hey, you can still enroll since this law is still in place. Now, if the ruling does stand by that Texas judge and Obamacare is overturned, this would affect practically every part of health care coverage in this country and affect millions of Americans. But we really won't know for years if that'll be the case while this makes its way through the appeals process. The bottom line for those millions of Americans for now, it's basically business as usual.
All right. And Hallie Jackson.
I have a law degree, and I'm not sure I caught all that.
Thanks, Hallie.